Prepare to be amazed as we unlock incredible gaming performance on a surprisingly tight budget, revealing a secret weapon that could redefine your expectations. Today, on Tech Unboxed, we're assembling a budget gaming PC, a combination I've been eager to put together for some time. I waited for new drivers, anticipating a significant performance boost from this setup. With current PC part prices being rather wild, this build primarily utilizes used components sourced from eBay. With a bit of patience and a keen eye, you can construct something similar quite affordably. The only new parts in this system are the solid-state drive, the cooler, an intriguing Amazon Basics model. We'll examine shortly the case, and the power supply. While many different configurations are possible, this is the particular setup I settled on for this video. We have a lot to cover, so let's dive right in. We're focusing on the AM4 platform, which, in my opinion, is far from dead. In fact, I believe it's one of the best options available in 2026, largely due to its current pricing and support for DDR4 memory. While DDR5 RAM prices are currently astronomical, you can still find excellent deals on used DDR4 modules on eBay. Our motherboard is a Micro ATX Gigabyte B550. It's a very affordable board, lacking built-in Wi-Fi, but capable of supporting higher-end CPUs like the Ryzen 7 5800X, which would offer a substantial upgrade path. For this build, however, we're using the AMD Ryzen 5600, the non-X variant. Although you could opt for the X version, I've noticed eBay sellers are often overpricing them. The Ryzen 5600 still delivers comparable performance for less, featuring 6 cores and 12 threads, a very capable processor. For memory, as mentioned, we're leveraging DDR4, keeping costs down. I didn't opt for anything extravagant. This is used HP RAM running at 3,200 megatransfers per second, MTS. I specifically avoided 2,400 MHz as modules, so I invested a little more here. We have two 8GB sticks, totaling 16 GB. If you wanted to spend a bit extra, used kits from brands like Team Group T-Force, often with integrated heatsinks, might allow for slightly higher overclocks. However, these HP modules run stably at their stock 3,200 MTS, and that's where I'll be leaving them, given the current memory market. While the stock AMD Wraith Stealth Cooler is quite inexpensive, I recently stumbled upon an Amazon Basics CPU cooler on Amazon. I found this incredibly novel. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing cooler, but I couldn't resist picking it up, primarily because I'd never seen an Amazon Basics branded CPU cooler before. It cost $18 US. And while you can certainly find excellent coolers for around $20 US, the sheer novelty of this tower cooler, featuring 4 copper heat pipes and what appears to be a 90mm RGB fan, was too good to pass up. It should offer better cooling performance than the stock Wraith Stealth, despite its somewhat uninspiring appearance. Regardless, it's going into this build. Next, let's discuss the case. This is a model I've had my eye on for several months, the Zalman Cubix G, which has been frequently on backorder on Amazon. It's priced at just under $50 US and is available in both black and white variants. It's a vertical airflow tower case that comes with 3 RGB fans. It's not explicitly designed for all-in-one liquid coolers, though you might be able to squeeze one in. It supports micro ATX and mini ITX motherboards, and I genuinely appreciate its overall aesthetic. I consider it a decent case, not truly small form factor, but compact enough for micro ATX or mini ITX builds. That Amazon Basics cooler really caught my attention. It would be fascinating to build an entire PC using only Amazon Basics parts. If I can gather enough components, I'll definitely make a video about it. Now, let's slide the motherboard into place. I've already installed the rear input-output shield. With this case's removable front and side glass panels, mounting everything is straightforward without even needing to remove the pre-installed fans. Next, we need a power supply. This case accommodates a full-size ATX power supply in the bottom. I chose a semi-modular 600-watt APVIA unit. This is the second one I've used, and the first is still running strong. While I haven't conducted super long-term tests, for the price, it's a solid choice. After mounting the power supply and wiring everything up, we'll move on to the graphics card. The assembly process was smooth, resulting in a clean little build. Cable management around the back isn't extensive, but that's expected at this price point. Now, for the graphics processing unit, there are numerous options. For those looking to keep costs low while still achieving good performance, I'd recommend a used AMD Radeon RX 6600 or RX 6600 XT from eBay. Their prices are often similar. If you desire more VRAM and a performance boost, the Radeon RX 6700 XT is another excellent step up. However, for this build, I've opted for the Intel Arc A770, specifically the 16GB version. The challenge with these cards on eBay is their wildly fluctuating prices. Some sellers seem to inflate prices, likely due to the generous 16GB of VRAM. For instance, I managed to acquire my Luna version for $220, but I've seen them listed for as much as $460. So, securing a good deal on the Arc A771 6GB model can be hit or miss, but it's what we're using today. It requires two 8-pin PCIe power connectors, and with the latest ARC drivers, it supports XESS multi-frame generation in compatible games. This feature, also found in newer XE3-based integrated GPUs in Panther Lake, has been updated, and I'm very keen to test it on this older card. With the build complete, I realized the motherboard lacks RGB headers. Fortunately, the Amazon Basics fan includes a small RGB controller that plugs into a SATA power port. I set that up, and it appears to be continuously powered once the power supply is on. The RGB isn't spectacular, and I'm not particularly fond of the case's included RGB fans either, as I'm not a big RGB enthusiast. I'd probably replace them with simpler black fans, but since they came with the case, there was no extra cost, and they certainly move air effectively. Let's move on to some testing. First, I ran a couple of 3D Mark benchmarks. In Steel Nomad, we achieved a score of 353, with an average frame rate of 30-54 frames per second. The B550 motherboard features a PCIe 4 0 slot, and the Ryzen 55600 supports PCIe 4 0, which is perfect for the Arc A770, ensuring no performance bottlenecks there. Next, in 3D Mark x SPI, the system scored 12,019. Considering the specifications, I think this is a respectable score, though the CPU is somewhat of a limiting factor. Upgrading to a more powerful CPU like the Ryzen 7 5800X on this B550 board would undoubtedly boost performance, even in newer games. But for now, we're testing it as is to see its full capabilities. Our first game is Cyberpunk 2077, running at 2560x1000, 440 pixels on the Ultra preset. With this preset, XESS automatically sets to quality. We're seeing a little over 70 frames per second on average, which isn't bad at all. However, there's a way to extract much more performance. If you're on a budget building a gaming PC and are hesitant about using frame generation, I understand, but it will be your best friend. Cyberpunk 2077 supports XESS frame generation with the latest ARC drivers. Within the Intel graphics software, at the top, you'll find the XESS frame generation override, offering 2x, 3x, and 4x modes. This allows us to enable multi-frame generation even on the RK 770, as long as the game supports XESS frame generation. Returning to Cyberpunk 2077, still at 2560x, 1440 pixels Ultra, but with XESS multi-frame generation set to 4x, we're now consistently seeing over 180 frames per second on average. This type of frame generation is truly impressive. Even if it's not multi-frame generation, standard XESS frame generation has always been incredibly smooth for me, and I honestly can't tell that I'm generating extra frames. The next game I wanted to test was Red Dead Redemption 2. At 2560x 1440 pixels on high settings with no scaling, we're achieving over 80 frames per second on average. You could push it to Ultra, but you'd need to introduce some scaling. Regardless, I think it still looks fantastic at 2560x 1440 pixels high, running at over 80 frames per second. It's a truly beautiful game. I also wanted to include at least one fighting game, so we went with Street Fighter 6. It's an easier game to run, and we're maxed out at 2560x 1440 pixels, maintaining a continuous 60 frames per second. Of course, I had to see how it handled my favorite arcade racer. As I'm preparing for Forza Horizon 6, here's number 5. At 2560x 1440 pixels Ultra, with no scaling, we're getting over 100 frames per second. I was hoping for a little more, and I believe a more powerful CPU, capable of stronger single and multi-core performance, would significantly increase the frame rate here. Finally, we have Marvel Rivals, running at 2560x 1440 pixels Ultra with XESS set to balanced. So, there is some scaling involved at 2560x 1440 pixels. This is a game that supports XESS frame generation, so you could use multi-frame generation, and at 4x, it would be wild. However, it's an online multiplayer game, and even though XESS frame generation introduces minimal input latency, I still prefer not to use it in competitive online scenarios. The last point I wanted to touch upon was CPU temperatures. While we're not pushing a massive amount of power through the Ryzen 5 5600, this Amazon Basics cooler performed far better than I anticipated. It's a decently sized cooler that delivers superior performance compared to the Wraith Stealth. While I can't fully recommend it, based purely on its aesthetics, for average 2560x 1440 pixels gaming, we observed temperatures around 65 degrees Celsius. The highest temperature I recorded during all my testing, using hardware info in the background, was 69 degrees Celsius. This means it's nowhere near thermal throttling, and we don't have to worry about overheating. Ultimately, I believe AM4 remains your best bet right now if you're aiming to build a budget PC. There's a vast selection of CPUs to choose from, allowing you to start with an entry-level processor and upgrade later. The real advantage here is DDR4 memory, especially given the astronomical prices of DDR5. Trying to build a budget system with DDR5 simply isn't feasible, as it consumes too much of the overall cost. As for the case, I think it looks great, though aesthetics are always a personal preference. I wouldn't hesitate to build a more powerful system inside it. My one recommendation would be to swap out the included RGB fans. It would be ideal if they sold this case without fans, but at under $50, it's a pretty decent looking option. That concludes our exploration of this budget gaming PC build. If you're interested in assembling something similar, I'll include some links in the description, along with a few alternative component suggestions. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the Tech Unboxed channel to stay updated on our latest content. As always, thank you for watching.